مرحبا جميعا، اسمي ديالا الجوهري وأنا هون لساعدكم تتعلموا عربي. Hello everyone, this is Diala Johari and I'm here to help you learn Arabic. You guys, ever since I've explained the past tense verb, I've seen many of you asking me to help you conjugate the present tense verbs in Arabic. So here it comes. Today we're going to talk about this topic in lesson 14. So I bet you're excited about it. Let's get started. Okay guys, as usual, first of all, we'll start with the modern standard Arabic. But before we start, you guys, let's review the pronouns we've discussed so far. I'll try to say the pronoun in English first, and you try to guess it in Arabic. So, I or I am is exactly أنا. You or you are for a masculine is yes, أنت. For a feminine, it's أنتِ. He or he is هو. Yes. She or she is yes, هي. هي. Now today we will introduce a new pronoun which is we. And we in Arabic is نحن. Please repeat after me. نحن. نحن. It's not نحن. نحن. Emphasize the ha, please. So you guys, I know we didn't mention this pronoun in the past tense verb, but don't worry, we will leave that to the later lessons. So let's start with how to conjugate the present tense verb with the pronouns we just mentioned. You have to know, you guys, that to conjugate the present tense verb with your pronouns, you have to follow 3 rules. Well, the first one is to add one of the letters of the word innate as a prefix to your verb. I mean, to attach it at the beginning of the verb. And the letters of the word innate are a, na, ya, ta. Alef, nun, ya, ta. Which one to use depends on the pronoun you're conjugating the verb with. So if you're using the pronoun ana, you use alif, the letter that ana starts with. If you're conjugating it with nahnu, can you guess which letter you use? Noon. You can take the first letter in nahnu as a reference to it. It will help you memorize it. So alif for ana, noon for nahnu. Ya is for huwa, and ta is for hiya, anta, and anti. Again, alif for ana, noon for nahnu, ya for huwa, ta for hiya, anta, anti. Easy. Let's take an example. If we have the verb to write, which is kataba, to make it present, you add one of these letters in the beginning. If you're conjugating it with ana, to say I write, you say aktubu. See, I added alif at the beginning. With nahnu, naktubu, we write. With huwa, yaktubu, he writes. With hiya, anta, and anti, I use ta. Hiya taktubu, anta taktubu, and so on. The second rule is to replace the fatha at the end with dhamma. Present tense verbs always end with dhamma. Remember, you guys, we mentioned that the verb in its basic form, which is a past tense, always ends with fatha. So to change it to present tense, you have to replace this fatha with dhamma. And I think you noticed that when conjugating the verb to write. So I said aktubu, naktubu, yaktubu, taktubu. But there's one exception for this rule in our cases here. With anti, you add the suffix ya wa nun, which sounds in at the end of the verb instead of dhamma. And that is done to differentiate the action done by a male and the action done by a female. So if you're saying anti, you don't say taktubu, you say taktubin. 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 See, I placed ya wa nun at the end instead of dhamma. This is only done for the pronoun anti. All the other pronouns mentioned take dhamma at the end. The third and the last rule is to change a vowel on the first letter of your past tense verb, which is a basic form of verb, to sukoon right after you add one of the letters of anate. If we have the verb again, kataba, and I want to add one of the letters of anate, let's take ya with huwa, what I do is that I replace the vowel of the first letter in kataba, which is kaf here in this case, to sukoon. So it becomes yaktubu. Yaktubu. Same thing goes with all letters of anate. Aktubu, naktubu, taktubu, taktubin. But you have to pay attention, you guys. We've mentioned before that two sukoons don't meet in modern standard Arabic, right? So if this letter is followed by a long vowel or shadda, which both are considered to have sukoon on them, I don't add sukoon. I leave it as it is. For example, if we take the verb taba'a, which means to follow up, I look at the first letter in my verb, which is ta. Ta is followed by a long vowel, which is considered to already have sukoon on it. When adding one of the letters of the word anate to change it to a present tense, you have to pay attention not to replace the first vowel on the first letter with sukoon. Why? Because here it's followed by a long vowel. Once you have a long vowel or a shadda following the first letter in the basic formed verb, you don't change the vowel of the first letter. Keep it as it is. Otherwise, you place sukoon on it. So these are the three rules that you have to take into consideration when changing a verb to the present tense verb. You have to add one of the letters of anate at the beginning. Change a vowel of a letter that comes after one of the letters of anate to sukoon unless you have a long vowel or shadda after it. And change the vowel at the end to dhamma unless you have anti. You change it in this case to ya wa nun. So let's take additional example. If we take the verb darasa, which means to study. So first rule says use one of the letters of anate. With ana, it's a. So I added alif. Second rule is to change the vowel on dal to sukoon. It's safe to do it here because dal is not followed by a long vowel nor by a shadda. So I changed it to sukoon. Third rule is to change a vowel at the last letter to dhamma. So it becomes adrusu. 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 Due to this change, the pronunciation of the whole verb will change, but you will get used to it when practicing more and more words in Arabic. So darasa becomes adrusu, and this means I study. Again, it is adrusu. Adrusu. With nahnu, nadrusu. Same rules here, but I changed the prefix to noon because I'm dealing with nahnu. So I say nadrusu. Nadrusu. Nahnu nadrusu. Nahnu nadrusu. With huwa, yadrusu. 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 He studies. With hiya, tadrusu. 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 She studies. With anta, tadrusu. Tadrusu. You study for a male. With anti, tadrusin. 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 You study for a female. So again, to recap, أنا أدرس, نحن ندرس, هو يدرس, هي تدرس, أنت تدرس, أنت تدرسين. أنت تدرسين. Okay guys, so as you noticed so far that in Arabic, when we express a verb in a sentence, especially when the sentence starts with this verb, it's unnecessary to mention the pronoun. So for example, I say أدرس درسي. Literally translated to I study my lessons. But it just means I study. So in this case, as you notice, I didn't say أنا أدرس درسي. So in this case, you might wonder, okay, so how am I able to differentiate between تدرس, which is for she, and تدرس, which is for you, knowing that the pronoun is dismissed here? Well, I say, you can know from a word that comes after the verb you're using or from the attached pronouns present in your sentence. For example, if I say تدرس درسها, although I can't know here whether تدرس is for she or for you, a male, because the pronoun at the beginning is dismissed, I can know from the attached pronoun in the second word. Ha is for a female. So I can directly know here that this verb refers also to she, which is هي. So it means she studies. But if I say تدرس درسك, kaf here will indicate that I'm talking to a male. So it's easier, guys. You will be used to it once you see more and more sentences in Arabic. And I say here comes the role of the stories you have to read while learning Arabic. If you just memorize a rule and try to answer the questions and just apply them, it will be easy but slow. What fastens your progress is to read more and more beginner stories in this stage. So that's it, you guys. I'm just kidding. The thing is, we have exceptions. As we mentioned in the past tense verbs, we also here dealing with verbs ending with Alef Mamdooda and Alef Maqsoora. There is only one thing you have to remember. If your verb ends with Alef Mamdooda, which is this thingy, or with Alef Maqsoora, here you also follow the same rule to place an 8 according to the pronoun you're conjugating your verb with, to change also the vowel of your first letter to sukun. But if you have Alef Mamdooda and Alef Maqsoora at the end, you can't put Dhamma here. Why? Because if you do, you won't be able to pronounce it easily. And for that reason, we came up with a new rule. If you have Alef Mamdooda at the end, you change it to Waw. And if you have Alef Maqsoora, you change it to Ya. Exception is anti. When conjugating the verb with anti, you dismiss Alef Maqsoora and Alef Mamdooda if present at the end. Let's take an example to make it clearer. If we take the verb to invite, which is da'a, if I want to conjugate it with huwa, I add ya at the beginning, I change the vowel on dal to sukun, but at the end, since I have Alef Mamdooda, I change it to waw. So Alef Mamdooda is changed to waw, and Alef Maqsoora is changed to ya. Here I have Alef Mamdooda, so I change it to waw. I don't put Dhamma at the end. So it becomes yaddu'u. Yaddu'u. Why do we do that? Because if we put Dhamma, we can't pronounce a verb. Yad'a'u. It's so difficult. To ease pronunciation, they changed the Alef Mamdooda to waw. Huwa yad'u. Ana ad'u. Nahnu nad'u. Hiya tad'u. Anta tad'u. But if we're conjugating it with anti, same thing. We use ta from anait. We put sukun on dal. But instead of changing alif to waw, we dismiss alif and place ya. If you want to know more, that is because alif is a long vowel. Ya, which is in, the suffix added for anti exclusively, is also a vowel. If we put them next to each other, as I've said before, the long vowel is considered to have sukun on it. So that means we're disobeying the rule which says two sukuns don't meet. That's why we cross out the first alif from the verb and then we add in. So it becomes tad'in. This explanation is as if you're zooming into the depth of the Arabic language, but it's not necessary to memorize it. All you have to do is to memorize that if you have Alef Mamdooda at the end, it changes to waw instead of Dhamma. And if you're conjugating this verb with anti, you cross out alif and put in. With Alef Maqsoora, we do the same thing, but we change the Alef Maqsoora to ya. So if you take the verb rama, which is to throw, if I want to say he throws, he is huwa, that means I have to use ya at the beginning. And I change the vowel of ra to sukun, but I can't place Dhamma at the end here because I have Alef Maqsoora. So I change Alef Maqsoora to ya. It becomes yarmi. 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 He throws. With ana, armi. 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 I throw. With nahnu, narmi. With hiya and anta, tarmi. And you have to pay attention when conjugating it with anti to cross out the Alef Maqsoora for the same reason. So we say anti tarmin. See, we crossed out the Alef Maqsoora and we added in. So as a recap, if we take the verb to invite, دعا, I invite, أنا أدعو. We invite, نحن ندعو. نحن ندعو. He invites, هو يدعو. هو يدعو. She invites, هي تدعو. هي تدعو. You invite for a male, أنت تدعو. أنت تدعو. You invite for a female, أنت تدعين. أنت تدعين. If we take the verb to throw, which is drama, أنا أرمي. أنا أرمي. I throw. نحن نرمي. نحن نرمي. We throw. هو يرمي. هو يرمي. He throws. هي ترمي. هي ترمي. She throws. أنت ترمي. أنت ترمي. You throw for a male. أنت ترمين. أنت ترمين. You throw for a female. Okay guys, هيدا كل شي لهيدا الدرس. This is everything for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoy it. I know that we still have to discuss the spoken Arabic, but we're going to do that in the upcoming lesson. I also want to note you guys that we're working on a series of textbooks that will help you learn Arabic easily based on the methodology used to explain the lessons in these videos that you've liked a lot. So level 1 is out now. Go ahead you guys and get your copy from the link in the description of this video and the description of the page. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the bell to stay tuned on the upcoming videos, and follow me on Spotify Arabic Sahel Community. أشوفكم بالدرس الثاني. I'll see you in the next lesson. سلام. Arabic Sahel.